Hello, dear viewers. Are you ready to take up arms and defend the people of Uria once again? This place certainly seems to have a lot of problems with petty despots constantly popping up and mucking everything up, huh? The next game in our humble Golden Axe retrospective is Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder. Released in 1992, Revenge was yet another beat-em-up game. It was just until 2020 an arcade exclusive, only seeing the light of day outside emulation via the recently released arcade 1-up Golden Axe cabinet. Not my preferred method for this game to finally see a more mass release, but hey, it's a start at least. In terms of story, Revenge is pretty light on the details, to be honest. Death Adder is back again with yet another army of evil minions wanting to do his bidding. I ponder, where do evil overlords get their manpower sometimes? He's also acquired the titular Golden Axe once again. You know, that legendary artifact that grants you immense power. He got it again somehow. Maybe they just left it in his chest last time and thought the job was done. Oh, since you're probably curious about how this game factors in timeline-wise, apparently Revenge is its own canon timeline and is a direct sequel to the original Golden Axe. So, now we have two separate timelines to contend with now. Great! It's like MK11, but hopefully better written. Instead of just taking over the castle to serve as his base, though, Death Adder has constructed a fortress on a mountaintop, a stronghold crafted in his own visage as well. I respect the narcissism on display, to be honest. But like in every fantasy epic with an evil empire, there must be a group of great heroes to topple the damn thing, and Revenge of Death Adder has 4 heroes this time out instead of your normal 3. Most interestingly, though, none of the original characters return as playable in this game, though Gilius does ride on the back of our first character, the guy I played for my playthrough, Goa. But before I break down the characters, let me tell you about what's changed in this game. The basics are still there: melee attacks, throws, magic, jumping. You know, your standard Golden Axe fare, but a lot has actually changed. Up to 4 people can now play the game simultaneously, and if you have multiple players, you can perform devastating team attacks upon your foes. Your basic combo can now put enemies into a stun state, which grants you access to a mashable close quarters attack. My favorite is Goa, since it's so damn funny to see someone punching the top of an enemy's head like he's a cartoon bully. Bonk, bonk. You no longer have a falling attack, but every character now sports a dive kick that can hit multiple targets. It can only be done at the apex of your jump though, so plan accordingly if you're going to use it to bail out of a bad situation. Your back attack is now just a special attack like in 2. Cool, totally awesome. Magic has changed drastically as well. Instead of having levels of magic that give you variable power level based on how many pots you currently have, every character in Revenge has only one spell that requires a certain number of pots to cast. You can also collect pots beyond that number, so you no longer have to worry about wasting any pots you pick up like in previous games, so hoard, hoard, hoard like a dragon. Character balance wise, it seems like Revenge has abandoned the melee magic sliding scale it previously relied on, and now every character is just a fully unique one with varying attributes and magical skill. Goa is our first character, as I mentioned, a giant of tremendous strength who wields an axe. Goa also carries Gilius Thunderhead on his back the whole game. Goa has the strongest melee power in the game, on top of having the strongest magic via the surly dwarf on his back. That magic not being lightning nor earth, but what I'm pretty sure is literal death magic. Holy shit, that's metal as fuck, dude. Gilius' magic turns every basic enemy in the game to stone and shatters them like glass. The most basic enemies get a fun little cutscene, too, of the absolute horror on their faces as they die horribly. Goa is my favorite character. Next up is Sternblade. Yeah, I know, he looks a lot like Axe Battler, but I promise it's not him. Honestly though, if I didn't know any better, I'd say he's the offspring of both Axe and Tyrus. He does look pretty close to Axe after all, and uses the broadsword as well. He also uses a dashing kick like Tyrus, and adopts her fire magic as well. Fire magic that violently melts the basic soldiers in a cutscene similar to Goa's. Also metal as fuck. Monster Girl Dora is our third hero, a centaur that uses one of those big ear cleaners from American Gladiators as a weapon. Dora is a pretty strong melee fighter, but has the weakest magic in the game, it capping out at a mere 4 pots. But having magic that weak puts her in the unique position of being able to chain her basic spell together for big damage. Let me say something about Dora though that kinda cheeses me off. Whenever she mounts one of the rideable monsters in the game, she gains a normal lady lower body. What the fuck? I wanted to see a horse riding a praying mantis, not this bullshit. And lastly comes Little Trix, one of those dorky elves you always see running around, but a little bit taller. Trix fights using a pitchfork, giving him the longest range amongst the playable characters in the game, and, in a first for Golden Axe, has a non-offensive magical spell. For magic, Trix summons a tree that subsequently drops apples, which you can eat for health, meaning Trix is meant to serve as a more supportive character, a character critical for multiplayer sessions for certain. I gotta say, I do love how they went about designing characters in this game, just striving to make them all interesting and fun to play versus putting them on a balanced scale like in previous games. Now, since the heroes are covered, let's get to the minions you'll be slaughtering en masse on your way to Death Adder. Death Adder's army brings faces both new and old, though none of them seem to have any names this time out, so I'll just ad-lib them. Death Adder's foot soldiers seem a lot more professional this go, with wearing more clothing, armor, and wielding big-ass swords instead of grape clusters. Alongside the soldiers come hammer-wielding manlets. These angry little hammer bros are a bit tougher than the foot soldiers, but are still run-of-the-mill grunts. Alongside these warriors come Savage Island tribals, wearing big bushy masks, swinging clubs, and hurling explosive rocks. These tribals are honestly a total delight. Look at them dancing, like Wurzag, the Great Green Prophet. Honestly, most of the times I run across them, I feel like I'm the intruder ruining a good party. They're just having a good time, and here I am, fucking it all up. On the more mystical side of things, tree men make their debut in this game as pretty cannon foddery troops, whirling around deadly swords and sprouting out of the ground to attack you as you would expect a tree to do. I love fighting the tree men since when you kill them, they typically explode into splinters. A fun touch, one of many in this game. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, Death Adder brings back the Bone Boys once again. Skeleton warriors are back, wielding swords once again, and menacing you like it's Golden Axe 1 all over again. They're the meanest sons of bitches in Death Adder's second army for sure. The thieves also make their triumphant return in this game, still dropping pots and food, but this time the food thieves are fat.
Look, the kids got butter. Come here, you butterball.
Don't make me run! I'm full of chocolate!
Also, what would a Golden Axe game be without its Bizarrians? This time with even more bizarre. Revenge features 3 different mounts, with 2 of these mounts having 2 separate attack types for a total of 5 different creatures. Even crazier is none of the previous ones return at all. Well, Chicken Leg is still there, but seems to have taken on a role as a beast of burden as opposed to cavalry now. Once again, no respect for my mutant little chicken boys. I suppose the dragon still does exist in a more vestigial form as well, since one of the available mounts is a bone dragon. A bone dragon that still somehow pocked fire loogies as well, which honestly I kind of felt was useless. It was way too easy to miss with its downward angled shot that doesn't activate till it hits the ground. It goes off cliff sides too, which is pretty annoying. The new mounts in this game are giant insects that Adder has pulled from God knows where, and are split into 2 types with 2 different subtypes. The first to run across is a giant praying mantis with the ability to breathe fire. God, what a terrifying fantasy world this is. More sensibly, the other praying mantis slashes with its claws, can throw people, and even has a grabber they chomp on your target's head. If this game was really metal, this fight would have a death scene like the one in Alien Apocalypse. Then there comes the Scorpions as the second rideable giant insectoid mount. The first blasts targets with high voltage electrical bursts from its stinger. God, Yuria only becomes more terrifying with every passing game, and the second Scorpion snaps at foes with its big, meaty claws. In addition to these mounts, enemies also roll out little artillery pieces that can be manned and fired, but are unfortunately stationary. Unless you have a mount, which can pick the artillery up and make it fully mobile. I think going with giant insects this time out was a very interesting choice. These monstrous beasts are definitely good representatives of an evil empire, and a reanimated dragon cuts close to the aesthetic as well, though I'd prefer if it breathed ice or something like a frost worm. They keep with the insect aesthetic later in the game as well when you run across a massive stag beetle that has a platform tied to it that serves as an elevator upward into Death Adder's fortress. This game really does nail its high fantasy feeling. I love it. On to Death Adder's strongest foes, though, the Amazons are back, bigger, meaner, and far more prone to high school bullying tactics than ever before. General Heartland also makes his return as an oafish general under Death Adder. You fight him a handful of times, but it's only the first time where he uses this clip on defeat. A clip that I'm 100% sure is just Raphael from the first live-action TMNT film.
Come back here! I'm not finished with you! Damn!
If you were curious about the sounds, basically all the death sounds from the first game return as well. So, all the Conan the Barbarian ones and First Blood screams are here. With this one addition for the Amazon lady that I mentioned earlier. Cyclops serves as another member of Adder's most elite forces, though I don't know why he has Heartland's Scream of Death as his guttural war cry. It's a bit odd in my opinion. And lastly are the Bone Reapers, because the skeletons needed a stronger, angrier, bigger brother to beat your ass, I guess. The first time you fight one is in a dark room, which you light with the sparks created by slashing the Bone Reaper's armor. It's a cool little effect for sure. They went all out with this game and its fun little bits. You'll fight all these minions across the fantastic lands of Yuria, of course, and in places just as amazing as the first game. Unlike the first game, though, Revenge has branching paths in certain levels, giving the game some additional replayability. Revenge features your typical human villages being raided, dark, dank caverns, ruins, sinister-looking forests, a village of the little elves you're used to kicking around as opposed to actually helping, but I guess it's nice that this entire bunch of people aren't sneaky little thieves after all. You'll battle across a ship with giant pits full of bones for necromancy, and finally to the best location in the game, Death Adder's Fortress of Narcissism. You battle your way to the top of the stronghold, blasting off massive chunks of Adder's visage as you go until you finally reach the top where the big bad is lying in wait for you. This time out, Death Adder is bigger, meaner, and has a few tricks up his sleeve. Most pressingly to you being that damn Dragon Moss shield of his. Want to know what it does? Well, you cast a spell and... Yep, it completely nullifies any magic you attempt to cast. Adder did his research, it seems, and is ready to deal with any heroic magic. Nice to see a villain adapt for once. Thankfully, you destroyed the shield in the first phase, so you can just hold your magic till the second. You fight a pissed off Adder in phase 2, now vulnerable to magic, and still vulnerable to ass kickings. You beat Adder down and hop onto your escape dragon as his fortress crumbles. Barely got away with our lives there.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Oh shit! He's not dead, and he's even more pissed off now. Engage in one final climactic battle with Death Adder atop your dragon escape. You defeat him, but uh-oh. Looks like he's gonna pull out one last big attack to take us all with him. What will happen now? In the 11th hour, Gilius leaps from Goa's back, buries his axe into Death Adder's skull, and the two plummet to their deaths together. Adder is defeated thanks to the valiant sacrifice of Gilius Thunderhead, and the surviving heroes head home to celebrate their victory and mourn the loss of a great hero. This is where Revenge of Death Adder ends. So, how does this sequel compare to the first and the first sequel? Well, it blows both of them completely out of the water, to be honest. Putting it simply, Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder is an amazing game in every way. The only thing I'd say that isn't an improvement is the music, but it's hard to top the original soundtrack. Not to say Revenge's soundtrack is bad or anything though, it holds its own just fine. It's genuinely very sad that this game never managed to escape its arcade-only status because it's far and away the best one. Anywho, if you're a fan of beat-em-ups and haven't had the pleasure of enjoying Revenge of Death Adder, I thoroughly recommend giving it a shot in a perfectly legal manner at your earliest convenience. With Revenge now out of the way, we'll move on to Golden Axe's first non-beat-em-up title. How exciting. As always though, I'm Hades Manticore, this is City State Manticore. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.